Alright, welcome back to part 2, which is part 3 becoming part 2, and I'll explain all of that in a second. So I've been driving around with the new head unit in the car, got it from Crutchfield, the Blaupunkt Bluetooth head unit. It's awesome. I've really been enjoying it the last few days, just cranking the tunes. I used to be one of those Porsche purists, so I just need the sound of the engine, which I do, I love that. But I love music as well. So it was really nice today. Took some backcountry roads just outside of Toronto and went for a little hike and then came back. And it was just nice to kick some tunes on the journey. Really good, nice and loud, but it is missing the mid-tone, so the lower mids and the sub, and the bass, sorry, the lower mids and the bass. So I am going to put in this sub unit and it's going to go under the driver's seat. It should be quite a quick install, and that's why part 3 is becoming part 2, because I had originally said that I was going to do the front speakers in the door cards as part 2, and I just want a quick and easy job, and I think this is going to be pretty quick and easy. Famous last words, right? Okay, so this is the unit that I got from Amazon. It's called Pile. Hopefully it's not a pile of junk. Boom. We're going to put this under the driver's seat. And we need to run, in order to power this baby, we need to run a power cable. I got one of those speaker kits from Amazon. I'll link all of this down below. This has an inline fuse, so this is going to go direct to the battery, and it's going to go through the car. We're going to find an opening in the car, in the front somewhere, and feed it back into the cabin, hopefully somewhere along the driver's wall. So that's going to be the first part that we need to do. We need to run the grounding cable as well to some point on the car, which I need to find. We have a little control unit as well, just to control the amount of bass, I guess, that we're getting through here. So that needs to be run as well. I'm not too sure where to mount this. That's going to be interesting. So we'll figure that out. And then finally, we need to actually get audio from the head unit to the speaker. So we're going to use this cable here. The back of this particular sub has sort of like a stereo inputs, which of course a sub doesn't really need, I'm told. So we should be okay just going from the sub out on the Blaupunkt head unit directly to the left speaker input here of these two. So you can get a Y splitter that will take this cable and feed it into both of these, which I don't have right now. I'm just going to do it this way for now and see how it sounds. And if it sounds good, then Robert's your father's brother. But if it needs the Y cable, then I'll just add it in afterwards. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is to remove the front driver's seat, which I've actually never done before, so let's see how easy that's going to be. Okay, so on the cars, there are 4 bolts for each seat, 2 on the front, 2 on the back. I think on the later model cars, there are 4 bolts on the back, but on the SCs, which is what I'm working on today, we've got 2 on the front and 2 on the back to deal with. So we get to them by putting the driver's seat back as far as possible, and then we have a 10mm hex here, which we are going to try and get into down here. Now it's really tight, and I'm honestly not too sure if it's even going to work. Seems to be doing something. Yeah, we have liftoff on this one, so that's okay. Okay, so this is out. There's a tiny little washer on this as well, so take care not to lose that. I'm going to do the other one, and then we'll do the ones in the back. Okay, so that's those 2, and then we're going to just pull the seat forward. Okay, that's all 4 bolts are out now, so the driver's seat's meant to just lift out, so we'll see. Okay, well, that's the easiest job I've ever had to do on the car. Hopefully it goes back in just as simple. So the next thing that we're going to do, turn off the power, of course, disconnect the battery, make sure there's no current flowing through anywhere, and we're going to run the blue power cable from the battery terminal into the car right now. Alright, so we are now going to be running this blue power cable. First thing first, it's just going to disconnect the battery. There's a lot of different places in the car, so where I run the cable through may not exactly work for you. I really hope it does, because I found a really easy place, and it took me like 20 minutes to try and find somewhere to run that was gonna mean I didn't have to drill any holes and all that kind of stuff. But we're gonna attach this to the positive side of the battery. The inline fuse is gonna be here as well. And of course, what we want to do is we want to run the cable into the car. So I found a hole here. So we're just gonna thread it down here. This is right by the master brake cylinder. Okay, this should show you a little bit more clearly exactly the route I'm taking. So we're coming in right here. So as I feed it down through that space, we should be able to just fish it out from right by the foot pedals in underneath the steering wheel. To get our bearings again, we're coming right underneath here, right by the clutch. So I just need to fish that through, and then we're gonna run it under this carpet all the way along, and we're gonna come out around here, which is where the sub's gonna sit. Okay, I actually took a bit of a break, and I'm back in the next day. We had Father's Day here in Canada, so I've been enjoying some time with my family, and I'm coming back in to pick this up now, just to finish off the sub installation. It's all wired up and it works, which is great. So basically, you'll remember that we had the power direct from the battery with the inline fuse. That's that thick blue cable that I ran, and that is coming down and going into the into the power, the 12-volt power on the sub here. And we had our grounding cable, which went over to the handbrake bolt. I was chatting to a buddy of mine, I didn't know this, but it makes perfect sense. He explained to me, no, don't extend the ground cable to somewhere that's a bit you think it should go. Any ground is ground, which is good, so this works really well. And he goes, the shorter the cable, the less interference there is, and the less likely you're going to get a hum in the speaker or a buzz or anything like that. So that was really, really good advice, and I'm glad I spoke to him about that. Originally, I wired it all up with the 12-volt power and the ground cable, and nothing worked, turned on, nothing worked. And I couldn't figure out why, and I went back to the instructions, and of course, I did not get a signal from the head unit to the sub to tell it to turn on. So that requires another wire. So I used a small 16 gauge wire here that runs from the remote connector on the back of the amp, and it splices into the head unit here. Now, when I put my head unit in originally, I just wrapped up all the cables nice and neatly, so I had to unwrap those, and I went into, you'll remember that I don't have a power aerial on this car, but I wired it all up anyway because that's what the connections were, and I just like to be neat. So there is a cable that comes out of the back of the head unit that is marked auto antenna. So that sends a tiny little signal to the antenna saying, hey, turn on, my radio's on, turn me on, and then the antenna will go up. So I spliced into that because that sends the same signal, of course, over to the sub, telling the sub to turn on. So now everything works great. If I turn the radio on, the sub will turn on, and when I turn off the ignition or turn off the radio, then the sub will turn off as well. So there's no drain on the battery while it's just sitting here overnight or anything like that. So that all works really well. The next thing that I need to do is to balance the sub. Just with the head unit. So that's just really figuring out where do I want the sub frequencies to kick in. I'm missing a little bit of the lower mids, so I want it to sort of kick in just above perhaps where the bass really would be. And I don't need anything too heavy. I just want something to fill out the sound a little bit more. So we're going to balance that and get that sorted. After that, it's then securing the sub to the floor, which I haven't yet done. Now, I don't really want to drill or use the self-tapping screws into the body of the car. I feel weird about doing that. So I'm going to use heavy duty Velcro, which should do the job and should stop it moving around. The only reason I can see to then screw it in is if for some reason the bass in the sub is giving it a little bit of a vibration and I start hearing it or feeling it sort of buzz around. If that happens, then I'll come in and I'll put in some proper screws and we'll get it secured to the floor properly. So heavy duty Velcro. And then the last part is it does come with a sub control, right? So you've got this tiny little dial and we need to hide this somewhere. So I haven't quite decided where I want to put that yet. I think I'm going to get this all done, but this just lets you control the level of the sub track by track, which is good. So I'm going to see if I can find a place to hide it discreetly. I want to keep the car looking as stock as possible, so I don't really want this like screwed to the bottom of the knee pad or anything like that, but we'll see what happens, and I might have to put somewhere temporary before I figure out another solution. Anyway, let's get this mounted, and then we can start putting the seat back in, and basically this job will be done. Okay, the temperature is creeping up here in the Outlaw Garage. Summer's here now in Toronto and the driving weather is perfect. So I want to get the car out, and it means I might take a little bit of a hiatus just on this little sort of like music project, because the sound is actually really good right now. And there will be some purists among us who say that the engine is music to our ears, which of course it is. But I like to listen to some tunes on some longer drives as well. So now I have a really nice sound system in the car, and I haven't even put in the front speakers yet. So those will be going inside the door cards. And if you've been following along, that will now be part 3 that was part 2, blah, blah, blah. The subs install went very well. I was really happy with that. It's very simple to do. Running the power cable was my biggest sort of area of anxiety, because I hadn't done that before with the car. That went really well. Figuring out the wiring after all of that, you know, with the remote cable and getting it working, pretty simple. Those little heat shrink connectors that I've been using are bang on. Those are really helpful, and they leave a really nice, neat loom, and it kind of looks pretty professional as well. So all in all, I'm very, very happy. Great sound, great stereo. Love the wireless charging with my phone and the Bluetooth connection for the music. The sound is great. And it's going to be even better once I get around to putting in those front speakers in the door cards. So if you found this helpful, smash that like button. I'd really appreciate it, and share with your friends and all that stuff. Yeah, leave a comment if you've got any questions, or if I can be helpful or of help in any way. Thanks to buddies in my gang who have helped me out, Rob particularly, Harvey. You've been really helpful with all of this and sort of sailing me through those little trouble pots. So thank you to you. And yeah, I'll see everybody on the next part 3, which will be the front speakers being installed into those door cards. All right, so stay tuned for that, and thanks for following along.